It's Friday, January 26th. I'm Geoff Schwartz. It's Geoff Schwartz is Smarter Than You. We are here to preview the championship weekend of the National Football League. It is Chiefs at Ravens, it is Lions at 49ers, and it is Matt Ford along with me every single Friday for our preview of the weekend of the National Football League. Matt, how you doing, buddy? You getting excited for the games this weekend?
I am. I can't believe we're here. It feels like the right four teams remain, right? Like it doesn't feel like we're missing
Yeah.
Buffalo or the Rams. I mean, all of those teams were great and fun. Actually, they weren't great at all, or otherwise they'd be here. But yeah, I'm happy with these matchups. I think both of them. I feel like we could talk about for an hour each. So maybe we will. But it's it's an exciting weekend.
Well, before we get to that, let's talk about some NFL coaching news because not all the jobs, most of the jobs have been filled, including Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers. I feel like, Matt, we can no longer fade the Chargers now that Jim Harbaugh is in charge of that organization. I'm sad about that.
I mean, what's going to happen when Justin Herbert still goes 9-8 and everyone's like,
He's
this
not.
guy, he's the best player in the world. It's like everybody bow down to the altar of Justin Herbert, who's never won a playoff game. Maybe he will now. No, it's a good hire, and I think they will definitely be better. I do think they're going to have to sow their oats. Why did I use that expression? I've never used that expression in my life. They have so much salary cap shit to deal with next year, right? Like they're going to have to totally retool this team, and they have all these sort of like old bad contracts. Like Keenan Allen's a great player. Should he make 30 million next year? Should Mike Williams make 25 million next year or whatever he's making? Like they're going to have to make some tough choices, but obviously they're going to be better. Obviously Justin Herbert will win a playoff game at some point in this tenure, but no more excuses for this team, man. I'm tired of it. I'm curious though, as a Chiefs fan, if you're worried about them sort of being the next team in the West, or at least posing a serious challenge.
Well, Harbaugh's won everywhere he's been. San Diego, not as a player, but as a coach of San Diego, at Stanford, at 49ers, and in Michigan. So I would expect him to win in Los Angeles, right? What this does, Matt, more than anything else, is it provides the organization with a legitimate leader, right? Like someone who will presumably get them out of charging, right? Presumably will have them more disciplined. Presumably will have more eyeballs and get better players to give their best effort each and every Sunday. And he has been good with all types of quarterbacks, all types of offenses. And so to me, this is a hire that legitimizes the Chargers franchise. And yeah, you have some cap problems. Certainly true, Matt. Yes, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are in your division, which make it tougher to win. But then again, like which division do you look at and think, oh, that's easy division right there? It's not. It's National Football League. And so this made a lot of sense because you needed, I think, Harbaugh for Herbert. Harbaugh gets the best quarterback available to play with. He got a killing on Washington, but then are you sure Caleb Williams is that good? Herbert's good. He's talented. You're right. No excuses now. There's no excuses whatsoever. But to me, this makes the Chargers a legitimate franchise. They got themselves a real coach who's been a proven winner before.
Yeah. And look, yes, it's hard to play in Patrick Mahomes' division. But you look at, the Steelers made the playoffs this year. Like there's a way in. Like it doesn't matter necessarily that you're in these tough divisions. Like, the Ravens are in a tough division. Turned out fine for them. So I think it was a really smart move for him. He obviously wasn't going to go out of a great position in Michigan to go coach, a team like Washington or Carolina or Atlanta that sort of needs like an overhaul. He can walk in there on day one at a team that should have been a playoff team this year and turn it around pretty quickly. So it's a great hire. Good for them also. Like that franchise, I do feel bad for those players that they don't get home games and that it's just like this tough, like obviously LA doesn't care about them yet, but I think they might now. And this is sort of like a really key hire for them. So good for them. There were some other ones too, though, Geoff. So the Falcons.
I don't have an opinion on all these hires. Like, I don't like what am I supposed to say about Raheem Morris? Everyone likes him. I don't know him at all. He seems like he's a good coach. He's done well where he has been, and I'm glad he got an opportunity. But I don't have a great analysis for him as a coach or Dave Canellis the Panthers hired. I mean, Brian Callahan, the Titans. They're young. They seem like they're up and coming coaches. People like them. They vouch for them, and we'll see how. A lot of it comes down to like, who's your quarterback, right? Is Bryce Young going to be good in Carolina? Well, if he is, then Canellis will be a good hire. If Will Levis is good in Tennessee, then Brian Campbell will be a good hire. If whoever the Falcons get in Atlanta is good, then Raheem Morris will be a good hire. I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, true. I think what's so interesting about this cycle is you look at some of these. I mean, really, the teams left are a good example. Like all four of them have coaches that have either been there forever or will have the job as long as they want, right? And I think that it's becoming more and more clear. If you have the coach and you have the quarterback, like you're done, like you're set.
Yeah.
And I think that when these teams that are hiring, Raheem Morris or Canales, or they're trying to find just that sort of like that high floor thing with a younger coach who could be there forever and turn the program around. And I think that it's really interesting that no one thinks that Bill Belichick can do that anymore, because it's clearly not like, hey, we just need somebody who's going to come in and be a good coach and get us to the playoffs. Like teams are looking further down the horizon than they used to. And it's like, I get it, man. Like, I don't know why, Dan Hansis, who hosts this great show around the NFL, he tweeted from the people who brought you Desmond Ridder over Lamar Jackson, here's Raheem Morris over Bill Belichick. Yeah. It's like, that's a fair take. But at the end of the day, like Raheem Morris, if it works, he's there in 10 years. If it works for Bill Belichick, he's probably out in 3. And I think that for them, if you want to build a program, it's sort of like in college. Like you want to have college now is more like the NFL. Like you want to have your sort of face of your program be there for a while and define your culture and define all the decisions behind it, right?
Yes, it's a good point that you made with kind of the longevity of the coach if it hits. The Belichick thing, I think, is pretty simple. People are making a big deal. And obviously, you shared that too with me yesterday. That's just utterly ridiculous. The thing about Belichick, guys, is that he wants control of personnel. Right, Matt? He wants to be in charge of personnel. I don't think somebody's like the Panthers or the Falcons, I don't think they want their coach like Belichick to come in and demand to be in charge of all these things when that was sort of the downfall of him while he was in New England. I mean, that is a big part of this. Like Raheem Morris is not getting personnel control. Dave Canellis is not getting personnel control. Jim Harbaugh is. They don't have a GM right now. Bill Belichick would want personnel control. He's not going to get it in Atlanta. Like that's why they didn't hire him. I feel like if a team is going to give him that, then I think he would be hired. If not, he's going to be left out. That's pretty simple to me.
It seems like such a strange line in the sand for Belichick. If it's like, I get it. If you're going to hire the guy who built the Patriots dynasty, like I guess you're hiring him. Like it would almost be a demotion for him if he was just a coach. But it's pretty telling if that's the line in the sand where people are like, hey man, you're a good coach, but like you haven't been able to draft a wide receiver in 25 years. So like you don't get control of the whole operation. Like it's just kind of crazy. And I think, I got to be honest though. I think the Mike Vrabel thing is crazier than Belichick, because Belichick's a commitment. Like you're signing up for a circus. You're signing up for like a grouchy old guy who's going to like play a certain game with the media, who's not necessarily going to motivate young players the same way he used to. I think that's been borne out, right? But I think that Mike Vrabel, Tennessee just sort of dumped him out of nowhere. Like they had a disappointing season, but like what was a realistic ceiling for a team with that roster, right? Go ahead.
Well, I would say that, sorry to cut you off there. The same thing I talked about with Belichick, I think applies to Vrabel. It's why he was let go in Tennessee. Him and the general manager did not agree on how to build the roster. The general manager sounded like he wanted to rebuild, right? He knew where the franchise was at, and he wanted to just reset this season and move it along. Vrabel wanted to go for it, right? And they certainly they should not have signed Hopkins. That was a waste of money. Like they just should have rebuilt the team. And I think Vrabel's in the same boat as Belichick, is that he wants control of the roster. and he wants control of the players and how it's built. And a lot of teams are saying, no, we're not giving you that. We're not allowing you to do that. I also think that you mentioned sort of young and up and coming. A lot of, like, Vrabel is not young and up and coming coach. He's a defensive coach, first of all, which makes it tougher to hire, in my opinion. Who is he bringing in as OC? That's a big part of it, right? When you hire a defense coach, who's your OC going to be? They talk about like Raheem Morris bringing someone from the Rams over, right, to run that McVay system. So who's he hiring as his OC? And player personnel control. I think that really matters to a guy like Vrabel, who had it in Tennessee for a while, was taken sort of away from him. Same with Bill Belichick. Obviously, the Chargers are giving it to Harbaugh. That's what I think the holdup is in a guy like Vrabel. That's my guess.
Yeah. Well, Vrabel, I mean, I think Vrabel has a little bit of Mike Tomlin's problem, which is like, well, we talk about them on this show every week. It's like we're betting on that team to cover the spread. Like we're betting on them to squeeze a little bit out of their team that probably isn't there. And if you're a team, let's pick Carolina over Washington. Like you're not picking Mike Tomlin or Mike Vrabel to come in there, right? Like you're picking a team. You want like a Zach Taylor type who's going to come in and like build his thing over time, like get some growing pains out of the way, rather than like, hey, guess what? Like we went 5-12 instead of 1-15, like or 16. You want to bottom out, right? So I think that Vrabel. I think a lot of people have sort of put him in Seattle. But Seattle kind of has the same problem as Tennessee. It's like, what is Seattle? Like they don't have the quarterback. Pete Carroll and his team, and Waldron, who's since left, like got something out of Geno Smith that hasn't ever been there. They have, but like, are they close? I don't know. Like it seems like they were about as good as they could be this season. Do you strip them down to the studs? And if so, do you go for somebody who's I feel like, I don't know. That Seattle search is very interesting. Like I can't tell where they're going to go.
Isn't Vrabel just another Pete Carroll but younger? Isn't that like the issue if you go with Vrabel there?
Yeah, and I think Dan Quinn is kind of that. Like he was there before, obviously, but it's like, what are you getting if you hire Dan Quinn there? And I just feel like Seattle didn't totally have a plan, and Tennessee, like I kind of can't imagine Tennessee had a great plan either. I mean, no disrespect to Callahan. I think it was your tweet about he's going to hire his dad to come in and coach the O-line. Like that'll be fun. But Tennessee, like they have a long road ahead, and like a couple of good games out of Jake Browning is a pretty tough sell for me. Of like, yeah, this guy's ready to be a head coach. Like I found that whole situation to be just a little bit bizarre.
It was crazy. About like I tweeted about the Vrabel thing. I mean the Vrabel thing, the Brian Callahan thing, and his dad. And people were like, "O-line coaches don't matter. If they matter, they pay him $25 million a year." It's like, oh my god! I was like, what are we?
They matter. Look at the Patriots. When Scarnacchia left, that team fell apart. Like
look at the teams playing. Look at the teams playing right now.
Exactly. That's a great point. You look at those units, and it's personnel and coaching, and it's a hugely important piece of the team. Obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you know that already. Quickly, it seems like is it really true that the last two? Is it just Seattle and Washington left? Is that all it is?
Yeah, but Washington feels very much like Ben Johnson, right? Like that's what Washington's hiring.
Seems like that's
happening. Alliance OC.
Yeah, and it must be Aaron Glenn then in Seattle. It feels like that's the only other, unless Mike McDonald of Baltimore were to get that job. It feels like they're waiting for something to fall. So I don't know. They seem to be the two hottest names.
There is no rush for NFL teams to hire coaches, so they don't have to do it right now. I mean, obviously, if you're still coaching, then you're not going to be hired because you're still in the playoffs. All right, speaking about playoffs, let's get to
playoffs.
The preview of the two championship games. We have the AFC game first. We have Chiefs at Ravens, and we have the night game, which is the Lions at the 49ers. Matt, do you want to go we'll go in order? You want to go with Chiefs Ravens first?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
And we'll preview the games, and then we'll do our 6 bets. And we'll recap what happened last week at that point. All right, so the AFC Championship kick time, 3:00 Eastern.
Yep.
The Chiefs are 4 to 3.5 point dogs to Baltimore. Baltimore been the best team all year. It's interesting that the public seems to be on Kansas City as underdogs. Not surprising. And the sharp money keeps and then raising that line up from 3.5 or 4 for Baltimore. Um, I have a feeling you're going to be on Kansas City, but I'm curious what
Well,
you think is. I mean, where do you want to start with this game? There's so many ways we can come at it.
okay. So I'm not on Kansas City in this game. I'm not on Baltimore either, but let me explain the reason why. Matt, I think Baltimore's just a better football team. And it's hard to find a path to the Chiefs winning this game that doesn't involve the Ravens messing up and Patrick Mahomes having like the best game of his life, right? Like, let's think about this game. So let's start with the Chiefs offense, right? Against the Ravens defense is really good. If the Ravens say, Travis Kelce, you're not beating us, and they can certainly do that with Kyle Hamilton and with Smith and Queen, right? Roquan Smith, all pro, Kyle Hamilton, all pro safety. I was at the game in Buffalo last week. We talked about this with Gabe. And Travis Kelce would make a big play, Matt, and then come off the field for 4 or 5 plays. Like, he's not the same guy. You're not getting a full game from Travis Kelce. You're getting bits and pieces that are still excellent and still good. You're not getting a full game from him. And if the Ravens say, we're taking you away, what do the Chiefs do now? Is it Rashee Rice? Is it playoff MVS? Is it Sky Moore? Is it Noah Gray? Like, who is the next guy? Who is it? Watson? Like, that to me is terrifying if you're a Chiefs fan, right? Because let's just assume Travis Kelce is sort of taken away. Last weekend, Matt, he had 5 receptions. That's it, 5. It felt like he had 10. He only had 5, Matt, because I bet Travis Kelce over 5.5. So if Baltimore takes away Travis Kelce, can the Chiefs run the ball against Baltimore? A lot different than the Bills and Dolphins. Baltimore's healthy. They're big and physical up front. Chiefs are probably without left guard Joe Thuney. So I am worried the Chiefs will have trouble in offense in this game. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, it's been the worry all year. And that
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the thing with the Chiefs is we're entering the sort of like metaphysical with them. Like, if you're in on the Chiefs, which I probably will take them with the points, you're just betting on Mahomes. That's it.
Correct.
It's not a complicated case. And like,
Yeah.
you and I consume a ton of NFL related media and a lot of betting related media. And I've heard people lay out these perfect bulletproof cases for Baltimore, and they all make sense. And then at the end of it, they're like, but I can't take it because I can't go against Mahomes getting 4 points in the playoffs. And that's where I am. It's like, Baltimore, they have the number 1 offense and the number 1 defense. Like, right? I think both in DVOA. Like, they're exceptional across the board. They're healthy. Everything just clicks. Like, they just add Dalvin Cook to the mix, right? Like, they're like, everything on defense just seemed to work. They absolutely dominated last week. But I think when you zoom out of sort of like the entire year of sample size, there are a couple things that just come up over time with both of these teams and quarterbacks. Lamar in general is a fade as a favorite of over 3 or 3.5.
Yeah.
And Mahomes is just an auto play late in the season, obviously. And of course, as an underdog. And he's started 25 games. Or wait, that's not the right stat. He's amazing.
9-1-1
he's
as
8-3 straight up as there you go. He's 8-3 straight up as an underdog. I was looking at his teaser stats for some reason. So anytime that you're getting 4 points with Patrick Mahomes, I feel like you just have to take it, especially if like everyone's kind of overthinking it. I think Baltimore wins. I do. I think that it probably comes down to a battle at the end. I think this is probably a tight game where both teams are going to try to take the air out of the ball. Like, I don't see this being a shootout. I think Kansas City realizes, like, hey, we got to control the ball. We got to run. Yeah. Like, we have to absolutely just like not make a brutal mistake.
Yep.
So I think the under is a good play here. That'll probably be one of my 6. And I don't know. I think this is going to be a really close game that comes down to the end. I'm not sure that's going to be the case in the other one, but this is, I don't know. I think we're looking probably at the 2 best teams right now in this game. I think the next two teams are probably a little bit behind them, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I think the winner of the AFC Championship wins the Super Bowl. We'll talk about that in just a second. So along the lines of like Chiefs offense, Ravens defense, I like 2 wagers so far. I have Travis Kelce under 5.5 receptions. That's plus money, Matt. And I have Patrick Mahomes over 4.5 rushing attempts. I think Mahomes is going to have to run the ball a lot in this game, like just scrambling, making plays, trying to like be magic, do magic. So those are 2 that I have that will probably be in my 6 as far as that matchup. On the other side, the Chiefs defense is really good, right? But they don't stop the run terribly well, especially when when teams are running out of shotgun. And they're going to pressure the heck out of Lamar. They're going to pressure him and try to get him to force mistakes, which is, I think, the only chance of stopping their offense, in my opinion. I just Chiefs are going to have to force turnovers, man. And I hate saying that as like a handicap because it's really not, but they are. They have to try to find ways to force turnovers to keep themselves in this game to stop Baltimore's offense.
They are. And I think I forget where I heard the stat. I think it might have been our friend Peter Schrager on Simmons podcast, but the winning quarterback in every playoff game has not thrown an interception yet. So it does come down to this really slight margin of error. And one of the problems I think for Kansas City, I think you should talk about this more than me. The Joe Thuney thing is big. The problem that the Chiefs are going to have, I think. You're getting a FaceTime? Is it Joe Thuney?
No. My dog was like barking on the camera. I was wondering what was happening. Someone's in the backyard. Okay, continue. Sorry.
I think I should just stop talking when it comes to Chiefs offensive line play, and you explain what the impact is of Joe Thuney not playing.
I mean, Thuney being out is a big problem. He's their best offensive lineman. It seems like he will be out, which I think is probably likely at this point. Maybe he's back from Super Bowl if they get that far. Strained pec. Now, Nick Allegretti, their backup, is not awful. He played 13 plays at the end of that Bills game. It was good. Like he played. He's not Joe Thuney, but played well. I was listening to Simmons and Schrager, and I love Simmons. Schrager obviously is great, right? And Good Morning Football, Fox Sports, he's wonderful. Simmons will like throw in a conspiracy theory, Matt, like once an episode. And Schrager just has to like laugh it off. And it's like my favorite part of the episode. Sims will be like, well, the NFL just wants Taylor Swift in the Super Bowl. Like they just want Taylor Swift. And Peter's like, I don't know about that, Bill. Like what's an episode? It's like a fan conspiracy theory. And Schrags is like NFL media is like, you don't know what to say. It's my favorite part of every episode.
I think they're both right. Like, I think if Roger Goodell got a vote, I think he'd make his vote pretty clear. I think it would not be bad for the NFL if Taylor Swift was involved in the Super Bowl. Although, I will say there's a little bit of a question. I think she's touring in Japan.
She's in Japan. Today. We covered this on Bear Bets. Chris Felica tried to figure out the private plane time. Here's the question though: Would she cancel the show that day to go to the Super Bowl?
I think there's no world where she would not do that.
I think so too. Yeah.
It's a long flight, little complicated. Maybe lose some fans in Japan. I think it's too important to both her and maybe her future husband's plans later in life. We'll see. But
marriage.
I think we're more in our comfort zone. I think we're more in our comfort zone talking Joe Thuney than Taylor Swift on this show. So,
for sure.
I think that's a big one. I think there's an injury in the next game that's going to be potentially bigger. But I guess.
By the way, I have Zay Flowers under 4.5 receptions. Kansas City in the last four number one receivers they played. I think it was Diggs had 3 catches, Tyreek Hill had 5, Chase had 3, and Devontae Adams had 1. They take away the number one wideout very, very well. And Zay Flowers is a rookie. He's not even in the category of those 4 guys I mentioned, I don't think. And the Chiefs take away that guy really, really well. I think in this game, Zay Flowers is going to say, look, man, we're going to make Lamar work a little bit here. So give me Zay Flowers under 4.5 receptions. And then I have Lamar Jackson over his rushing number. The Chiefs, I think it's 64. I'm going to make sure here. The Chiefs just allow a lot of rushing yards to quarterbacks in playoff games. Like Joe Burrow's rushed for a ton. Josh Allen rushed for a lot last week. And I think that they're going to have a lot of designed runs to try to beat the pressure packages, that it's 67.5 now. Wow, it's risen a lot. I think that is a wager I will put in here, because I think Lamar sort of has to run the football in this game. It's to be part of the game plan to defeat the pressure Chiefs are going to bring.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of my plays was going to be the Chiefs tend to give up more plays to those number 2 receivers because they're so good on the number 1 receivers, and I think there's value to be had on Rashad Bateman. So Odell Beckham only had 20 snaps last week. And Bateman, I think his total is like 26.5 or something like that. So I like him potentially. They're gonna have to throw it to someone, and I think with Andrews probably back, like there's gonna be a lot of attention on Andrews and Likely, and I think that they might even shout out to the Chiefs corners, man, they're awesome. I think that they potentially are gonna have to deal with Andrews a little bit more, and then let potentially leave the wide receivers open a bit. So that's gonna be fun, man. So I have a couple props in that one that we'll get to, but that's gonna be one of them. Why don't we talk about the NFC game where man, 7-7, it's actually up to 7.5 for the 49ers. I think because of probably the news that Debo is at least going to try to play. So that I think is pushing the money up towards San Francisco a bit more. Debo seems to be it's kind of crazy. I looked at this stat and couldn't believe it. This season, when Debo starts and finishes the game, they're 12-1, the 49ers. Without him, 1-4. And that includes last week where he left the Packers game and they could have lost. So
it's 10. It's when he plays 10 or less plays. They're 1-3, by the way. Okay. Here, I have it right here. You ready? They average.
I'm looking 32, at Evan's thing. Yeah.
They average 30. Well, I have NFL research. They have 32 points with him, 18.8 without him. Brock Purdy completes 10% less passes. His passer rating is 40 points lower without Debo on the field. And he's thrown 5 interceptions in the 4 games without Debo and 6 the rest of the season.
It's unbelievable because when you look at that team, you don't think necessarily that he's the crux. Like, right? You think it's McCaffrey, you think maybe it's Trent Williams, maybe it's Bosa, but it's him. It's Debo. And Debo, he's part of the run game. He is part of all kinds of things and opening up people like Kittle and McCaffrey. And look, it seems like he's going to play. If he leaves the game, to borrow Evan's stat, they do not tend to win the game if he doesn't play the whole game. I think I feel like Joe Square because I'm looking at this 7.5 and I'm like, these teams are not that different. And at some point you're going to have to, Brock Purdy can't kill them, right? That's the thing that is, when you look at all the things that could go wrong for both of these teams, I think there's 2 big ones. And for the 49ers, it's Debo's compromised, so Purdy has to make a lot of plays. And because the Lions' run defense is actually decent. It's their secondary that's awful. So they're going to have they should be decent. It's impossible to really stop McCaffrey, but let's just say that they don't get killed on the ground. Then Purdy's going to have to make some plays. And I like that as if I was to be back in the Lions. The problem the Lions have is I haven't looked today. Frank Ragnow potentially banged up after last week. If there's any issue with that, if there's any issue with that Lions offensive line, that could be a real problem. Because if Goff's under pressure, if Goff's on the road, if it comes down to who can make a play, like McCaffrey and Kittle and just Purdy playing point guard, or Jared Goff has to have one of these amazing games, that's going to be a problem for the Lions. If they're able to just sort of pound it and they have the protection up front and they're able to use the run, I do think that they can at least keep this close. And I think, and I'll stop after this, the Kyle Shanahan thing, this is the game where it could potentially show up. We saw it last week. He does weird stuff in terms of his game management. Once a game, you're just sort of what are they doing? Why are they managing the clock this way? Why aren't they running the ball here? Why are they throwing the ball here? Kyle Shanahan in the past has been a disaster as a big favorite. Here he is in a game where it seems like no one in the professional community likes the 49 or likes the Lions. Everyone thinks it's going to be San Francisco and Baltimore. They've been the best teams all year. Like the styles even favor the two teams. Like, let's see it, man. Like, you put all your chips in on Brock Purdy. You're supposed to be this genius. Like, let's see it. You're supposed to win by 7.5. Like, can that actually happen? I think I'm probably going to grab the points here too. And I have a feeling I'm going to be wrong on both, but I just feel like these two teams are closer than people think.
Wow, so much to get to. So, the Lions have not played a game outside. Well, they played one game outside since October 22nd, which is absolutely insane. They haven't played outside, but the weather's going to be good in this game.
Yep.
This is a high
California, right?
Yeah, this is a high scoring game in my opinion. Okay, so you mentioned some of it. The Lions have allowed a number one wide receiver to have 140 yards or more in 5 straight games now, Matt. Sorry, not even number one wide receiver, just a wide receiver. Because Puka Nacua had 180, right, 2 weeks ago. They're terrible against the pass. And even without Deebo Samuel, the Niners should be able to pass them. I don't expect Brock Purdy to play as bad as he did last week, right? On the other side, the Niners' run defense is atrocious. It is not good, Matt. I looked this up. This might not be one of my props for the show, but I bet it in real life. I have Jahmyr Gibbs over 14.5 for his longest reception. His longest rush of the game. Niners have allowed 16 yards, have allowed a 16-yard rush or more to 5 rushers in the last 4 games. They allowed 49 yards or more to 2 Cardinals rushers. Niners just can't stop the run. The problem is teams get behind, don't run the ball on them, right? The Lions will keep running the ball, and running the ball, and running the ball. You mentioned a big factor in this game. Dan Campbell's aggressiveness and Kyle Shanahan's conservativeness in these moments. Because Dan Campbell's going to go for a 4th down. He's going to go for 2. He's going to push the envelope, fake punt, fake field goal, everything he needs to do in this game. Kyle Shanahan does the opposite. He plays for field goals. He plays for not making mistakes. And that, to me, is a big problem in this game. The Lions side, Matt, is 1,000% square. No doubt about it. But in a high-scoring game, the 7.5 to me is a big deal. Lions' offensive line is good. I trust their coaching staff. They're physical up front. I just don't – look, Matt, the knock on Brock Purdy is whatever. You can say whatever you want about him. But he can't throw in the rain, and he can't out with Deebo Samuel. Those are big red flags to me. If things are not perfect, he is not the same guy. And so if Deebo can't go, obviously – that really worries me about their ability to win. Even if he plays 5, 10, 15 plays, he's got to play the entire game for them to play well. It's a long-winded way to say I think I would take Lions here, but I do like Lions over 20.5 points. I think the Lions score a bunch of points. It's only 20.5, man. The Niners defense is not as good as we give them credit for. We think they're the Ravens. They're not. They don't rush the passer as well. They don't stop the run. So I think the Lions over 20.5 points here is one of my favorite ones.
I mean, the point of this one is it's still, it's 51.5, which is a whole touchdown higher than the AFC game.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, man. It seems like Baltimore and San Francisco kind of have the same problem, which is over the years, whenever you've trusted them, they've fallen down. And when you look at the Chiefs, they're a team that they're just so reliable. And this Lions team, I don't know, man. This Lions team might just be good. And we look back at the teams, the wins they've had this year, starting even with Kansas City. Like that was a game where they went outside, they went on the road. They, obviously Kelsey wasn't playing, and they just they beat the shit out of the Chiefs. Like, I think that they're going to be, no one likes them in this game. That's a really good spot for them. And I think they're going to show up and they're going to outperform. Yeah. And in these spots, Shanahan tends to underperform. So I like that, you have the option to get over a touchdown. I think I'm going to end up just putting the Lions in there. And, it could come down to, they could lose by 8. It could be Dan. That's how it goes.
Yeah. All right. You ready to put our wagers in, buddy?
Yeah, so let's go back to last week. Last week, I finally made it interesting. You dominated me in week 1 last week. You got your 5-pointer. You had the Niners over your point total of 30.5. That was your 6. That missed. You had
Yeah.
Mike Evans over 70.5 as your 5er. That hit. Your Baltimore Houston under 43.5. I think that closed at 43. That's killer. Kelsey,
It closed at 44.
Oh, 44. Yeah, excuse me.
Yeah.
Kelsey had 5 catches. You had him over 5.5. Killer. Pacheco, and that was a hit. And Tampa Bay against the spread, we both missed that one. Baker Mayfield hit his over pretty easily as my 6-pointer. The 49ers never again, laying 9.5. I had KC and Baltimore and missed the Baltimore San Francisco first half money line. No more parlays. So that's a long way of saying this week we have 6 bets. We're pretty much tied. Yeah. Why don't you take us on your 6-pointer?
Okay. My 6-pointer is going to be Mahomes over 4.5 rushing attempts. It just had to be part of the game plan this week. It does. He's going to have to use his legs. The yardage stuff is hard because kneel downs obviously count toward helping me out and hurt rushing yards. It almost killed him actually last week as well. He was way over, and then he wasn't after four kneel downs. So I like Mahomes here over 4.5 rush attempts.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to take. Oh boy. I'm going to do it, Geoff. Give me the Lions plus 7.5 as my 6-pointer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. I think getting over the touchdown is big. I love fading Shanahan when everybody loves him. I'm doing it. Give me them for 6.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right.
That could be a miss.
Give me Lamar Jackson over 67.5 rushing yards for my 5. I have to mention earlier, I think the running game will be part of the game plan. It won't just be Lamar, Lamar just like running via getting hurried. I think it'll be part of the run game. So give me Jackson over 67.5 rushing yards.
Okay. Let me find the exact number here. I'm going to take Gus Edwards over 45.5. Similarly, it's possibly to zag off of yours, but yeah, basically, like he left the game last week. Chris Raymond made a good case for this, but he left the game last week. I don't think they're going to trust Dalvin Cook with a lot of carries. The Chiefs' defense very good against the pass. Yeah. They're going to let you run the ball. Gus is a very good style match for, just like what they're going to try to do. So I think Gus has a good game, and it's a good chance to buy low on him. So I'll take him for 5.
Perfect. 45. Number 4 for me, Brandon Ayuk over 80.5 receiving yards. I mentioned earlier the Lions fell out of someone to get 140 yards plus in 5 straight weeks. Brandon Ayuk will be that guy in this game, Matt. So give me Brandon Ayuk over 80.5 receiving yards.
Cool. I'll take Rashad Bateman here. 20.5. I'll take the over.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah.
I think I made that case earlier, but I think Beckham has the same number and he's playing much less. Yep. Potentially Andrews coming back, but I think they're going to do a lot of interesting 2 tight end stuff. But Bateman can do that in 1 catch, so I'll take him over 20.5.
Kelsey under 5.5 receptions. I just think it's not a Kelsey game. It just can't. Ravens will just not let it happen. So I have the under there.
All right, I'll take KC plus 4. I'm picking it. I'm picking all the spread games. I got to do it. I'll take that. That's my 3-pointer. I kind of regret putting Detroit over them already.
Well, you can switch it. I have Flowers under 4.5 receptions for my 2-pointer.
Flowers. Okay. I'm trying to find a good way to play this one that I do want to do here, but
just go.
Give me your 1-pointer.
Just do it. Just do Niners Ravens money line parlay, Matt. Just do it.
No, I'm not going to.
I
can do that. I'll take the under in the Chiefs Ravens game.
Okay, perfect.
And that total is currently 44.5. I'll take that.
Okay. I have Gibbs longest rush over 14.5 yards.
That's
my
really
number 1. I like that one. Yeah. I had Pacheco over longest rush last week too. Like it was like 15 yards.
That's really good. I'm gonna take. I wanted to take some. I'm gonna take George Kittle's over 61.5. Um, I think I think that's a good bet for who gets a little bit more action. You took Ayuk.
Yeah.
I'll say that they funnel it to Kittle if Debo is at all compromised. Debo, I think, actually is off the board. So if Debo weren't to play, we both get a nice little set of juice there. But I think Kittle is the man who who they'll funnel things through. So
Awesome.
I'll take him
All
for
right.
my number 6.
All right, guys. We did it, Matthew.
We did it, Geoff. Anything else we should talk about before we go enjoy our weekends?
I'm gonna go enjoy my dog. He's good. It's been raining, and he just needed some outdoor time. He's outside right now. It's been raining for days. He's gonna be just a muddy disaster. I think I'm gonna go right to the dog wash after this. Just to like immediately take him over there. He needs a bath anyways, and Ace Hardware has a dog bath. It's like $8. You can wash the dog, and we take him over there like every couple of weeks. He doesn't like it, but he has to deal with it. So we'll probably take him to get a bath right after this, actually. So all right, everyone. We'll talk to you guys on Monday. We'll recap. And then I think we're setting up, guys, Super Bowl week in person. Me, Matt, and Gabe all together doing an entire preview for the Super Bowl. We will do our prize picks then. We'll have Vaulted then. We'll have it all together all at once in one big fun little live show. Not live show. We're not having fans, I don't think. I mean, maybe. I don't know. But we'll be in office for that one on that Tuesday. So have a great weekend, everyone. Enjoy the games. We'll talk to you guys on Monday.
See you, Geoff.